was infected and opened in 14 different places. Let's see, that's not the one I wanted to read you. They brought before me a knight whose leg had an abscess had grown, a woman afflicted with imbecility. To the knight I applied a small poultice until the abscess opened and became well. The woman I put on a diet and made her humor well. Then a Frankish physician came to them and said, "This man knows nothing about treating them." He then said to the knight, "Which would thou prefer, living with one leg or dying with two?" The latter replied, "Living with one." The physician said, "Bring me a strong knight and a sharp axe." The knight came with an axe, and I was standing by. Then the physician laid the leg of the patient on a block of wood and bade the knight strike his leg with the axe and chop it off with one blow. Accordingly, he struck it. While I was looking on, one blow, but the leg was not severed. He dealt another blow. Upon the marrow the leg flowed, and the patient died on the spot. He then examined the woman and said, "This is a woman in whose head there is a devil which has possessed her. Shave off her hair." Accordingly, they shaved it off, and the woman began once more to eat the ordinary diet, garlic and mustard. Her imbecility took a turn for the worse. The physician then said, "The devil has penetrated her head." He therefore took a razor, made a deep and a cruciform incision on it, peeled off the skin in the middle of the incision until the bone of the skull was exposed, rubbed it with the woman also expired instantly. Thereupon I asked them whether my services were needed any longer. When they replied in the negative, I returned home, having learned of their medicine what I did not know before. he portrays them as such brutes that it's quite, really quite staggering. I don't have time to read all that to you, but I really urge you to read it. It's some of the funniest sections there. If I have some time later on, I will look at this. Let's take a look here at Ibn Hazm here. It's in the chapter called the Dolce Vita, I think it's called. I have trouble following it in this book here, so I think I will pick up my Barbary book here and do it from my own book. If I can find it. Oh yes, here it is. This is really the height of Muslim Spain, and there are two selections, one in the Arbory and one in the Kritzik one. And this book is by a writer called Ibn Hazm. It's another example of the adab style. But the adab style come to very high fruition. This is on page 164. The author of this book is as surprising as the book itself. He was Ibn Hazm, a very learned Muslim theologian. The name of this book is called The Ring of the Dove. Now this Ibn Hazm was actually also a theologian. He was a very strict legal scholar. He had a school of law very much like the Wahhabis. And yet he could write, and this is the 1000s, the 11th century, a book that is so sensitive that it fairly takes your breath away on love. This is a book about love. Now, if you know the history of European poetry and things like that, in southern France, amore became the motif of the troubadour singers of southern France. And that was in the 12th century, 11th and 12th century, 1200s and 1300s. And that moved into Italy. And new poets in the 13 and 1400s, which was called by them the sweet new style, were also writing about love. And courtly love became the rage in Europe in 12, 13, and 1400s. And you see, it starts with people like Ibn Hazm in Spain in the 1000s. So really, what we consider European courtly love, the Dante-type poetry about Beatrice and the Divine Comedy and things of that kind, really begin with treatises like this in Spain in the height of the Umayyad Empire before it was taken over. And in fact, it's in the process of this that the Berbers come in from North Africa to help protect the Umayyad Caliphate and then basically take it over. That this is written, and some of the pathetic stories he talks about take place. And what he's describing here is the art of courtship, sorrows and love, and a lot of anecdotes related to it. He was a high-placed court official, and so he knew what he was talking about. And what he does is he wanted to chronicle love of all kinds. For instance, I have observed women, 165, and got to know their secrets to an extent almost unparalleled. For I was reared in their bosoms and brought up among them, and not knowing any other society, I never sat with men until I was already a youth, and my beard had begun to grow. Women taught me the Quran, to get an idea of sociology of that period. They recited to me the poetry. They trained me in calligraphy. My only care and mental exercise since I first began to understand anything had been to study the affairs of women, investigate their histories, acquire the knowledge, all knowledge I could about them. So, in the process of the Berbers coming in, there's some notes here. Ibn Hazm had to flee Cordoba, where he was born. This is 1013, and he writes the next section after that about what's going on in Cordoba and so on. But if we move over to 167, he flees to other cities in Spain, Almira and so on. And then in 168, he gives you the divisions of this book. True to the scholastic tradition in which he was brought up, Ibn Hazm divided his treatise into 30 chapters. This is love. 10 are the root principles of love. The first being followed by the signs of love. After those who fall in love while asleep, those who fall in love from a description, those who fall in love at first sight. Then the second section, very Aristotelian, the accidents of love. And it has to do with helping friend, union with the beloved, concealing love's secrets, divulging the secret, compliance, opposition, all very courtly. And the third part, 6 chapters on the misfortunes of love. The spy, the slanderer, breaking off, separation, forgetting. It's incredible to someone in the Middle Ages could write such a sensitive treatise on such a subject. And it shows you how high Islam had risen as a culture at that time. Where's my critic today? Where is she? All the time I do sensitive things, she never is here. And then when something controversial comes up, then I get browbeaten for it. I really feel bad about that because the balance of the course is missed by people who only come occasionally. And I really feel that's the people who need it the most have a balanced view of things seem to evaporate, which I feel is really not the way to pursue an academic subject. But I think that way. Okay, here's Aristotelianism on 169. Aristotle was the philosopher of causes, first causes, and causality. Every love affair must have an original cause. I want to discuss the most unlikely cause of love. And he tells a story then. One day I visited our friend Abu al-Sari Amr ibn Sa'id, the freedman of Umayyad. Who's Umayyad? He would be one of the Umayyad caliphs, one of the last caliphs. So he would be a servant of the caliph in Cordoba. Found him deep in thought and much preoccupied. And I tried to find out what was bothering him. And finally he said, look, he said, I saw in a dream a young woman. And on awakening, I found I had lost my heart to her, and I was madly in love with her. And now I'm in the most difficult straits with this passion I have conceived for her. Finally, I scolded him, and I said, look, it's a big mistake to occupy yourself